Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where women from every walk of life come together to break barriers, embrace their power, and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Vicki McDougall, and each week we explore inspiring stories, actionable strategies, and empowering conversations to help you step into your confidence, amplify your voice, and create a life without limits. No matter where you are on your journey, this is your space to grow, thrive, and become unstoppable. Welcome back to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. You know, this week has been crazy. We've been recording and we've been meeting some amazing women. And Sammy is one of the first women that I got to meet. And I would like to introduce you to Samantha Catone. And she is a beautiful human being who transitioned her life from law to growing and really listening to what was important to her. So, Sammy, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Vicki.
I'm so happy that you're here too. Tell us a little bit about you, Sammy.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Rochester, New York, Western New York area. I've been, very type A my entire life, very much go, 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 high achieving, chasing the carrot. So I've been practiced as a litigation attorney for 8 years. And starting in 2020, I started to really notice some health issues, despite taking care of myself really, really well. I put myself in probably top 95% of the population in terms of the way I was eating and the habits that I had, all of the things. And I just kept going backwards. And I finally kind of put the pieces together. I was diagnosed with a condition in early 2025 called chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And the long and short of that is my nervous system was in fight or flight 24/7. So no matter what I did from a physical standpoint, I could not heal. It just wasn't happening. And it was so frustrating because I'm like, I'm doing all the things right. I'm listening to the doctors, I'm listening to the experts, I'm biohacking, I'm doing all the things, and nothing helps. So I finally really needed to go inward and stop kind of listening to the noise when the other people were telling me to do and start tapping into my intuition and what that was telling me. And, I started asking myself different questions like, this is probably happening for me. What could that be? What could that be about? And I really had to get a control of my thoughts. And it became crystal clear that my thoughts were creating my reality. And that victim mindset that we can, tend to fall into, it happens to all of us in different moments of our lives where we just feel like, man, I can't do anything right. And, your belief systems around your worth, things of that nature. So I really went inward, did the work, started to manage my thoughts. Gratitude was a huge part of my life and a big part of my healing process. And I healed myself by managing my thoughts and reworking my limiting beliefs and meditating like hell. So that brings me to where I am today. It also gave me the courage to quit my job and become a coach.
I love that. I don't love that you had to endure that, but I truly believe when something breaks down in our lives, there's something better coming. And I don't mean better as in, oh, it's going to bring us more money or it's better because it comes from in here. And I think that that's the difference. And much like you, I was in that fight or flight my whole entire life and I never realized it. Again, we don't until we allow ourselves that quiet. So what does your typical day look like now? Because obviously as a litigation attorney, you were on all the time. You had to, between dealing with your clients as well as all of the law and all of the stuff that went with that and dealing with people. And, it can't be easy when because you're fighting every day. If you're litigating, right? You're fighting.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast. So I went from grinding it out 60 hours a week and really living in a very reactionary state, right? Like you feel like you have zero control over what's happening. You're constantly in reaction mode. So I was surviving. I was just trying to get through the day. I'd come home and unload on my husband and kind of take it out on him, the poor guy. And now I wake up and I have so much dead space built into my calendar. That is just whether it's think time, meditation time. I really had to rewire my brain to believe that rest was productive. because
Yeah.
I lived my whole life thinking, man, if I rest, I'm falling behind or I'm not keeping up. And I quickly learned, and you have to build evidence for this new belief, right? It's not as simple as just
Absolutely.
saying rest is
No.
productive. So I would sit and really try to think about examples in my life where that was true. So now, I take a walk outside without my phone. I meditate for at least an hour a day in the morning and at night. I'm taking frequent breaks. I'm doing breath work throughout the day. But
Mhm.
I kind of structure my day so that I have like my really strong think time. I try to do like 90 minutes of uninterrupted, undistracted think time. And then my afternoon kind of flows with whatever my priorities are or what I need to get done. But I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I don't watch a lot of TV and I'm happier than I've ever been.
And you can see it because you when we first talked and you were talking about, you know, the transition, people think that I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to take that walk. I don't have time. We all have the same amount of time in a day. And it is all in what you choose to do with it. And it is a choice. And you made a conscious choice for you that works the best for you. It doesn't mean that your life is going to be forever changed in a direction that you don't like. This is all new to you, but you're discovering it for you, and it's making your health better. So you get to now pass that on to other people so that they can see. Now, do you work primarily with lawyers and with like professionals? Is that what you coach around?
Yes, primarily female attorneys, but my ideal client is really just high achieving women who are struggling
Mhm.
with burnout and overwhelm and just feeling like, no matter what they do, it's never enough. That's the one thing that
Yeah.
I hear. It feels like no matter what I do in a work from a work or a personal life standpoint, especially if they're have children to take care of, they never feel like they're doing enough. So that's really primarily who I work with. I always say like you're in the best position to help the person you used to be. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was, an over-functioning burnout lawyer. So
Yeah.
for right now, that is my client base.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, women need to know that when I had my salon, I felt like when I chose to walk away from it, I was failing. But it's not a fail when you choose a different path. It's
Yeah.
actually just an opening of a new chapter. And you've opened this chapter, and to think that you get to pay this forward with something that you love and that you discovered that makes you feel like your cup is full,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Because
courage.
yes, it is
Yeah.
courage. And you took that first step. Now, talk about that. Like, how did you go through that in your mind? Like, how did you actually say, I am walking away from this? Did you just do it because of health, or was it a struggle for you?
It was really hard. I mean, you spend years in a huge financial investment, getting this degree and kind of working your way up the ladder. I busted my ass and I was really successful. I was making a lot of money. I was climbing the ladder. I was on track to become a part owner of the law firms that I was working at. But really, when my health took the turn, and in May of last year, I really wasn't sure if I was going to survive that. I had a couple moments where I'm like, this could be it. And when you're faced with something like that, your health is deteriorated to that degree, making a change no longer feels like a choice. It really just didn't feel like a choice. So I started my healing journey and was feeling much better overall, still practicing. But I'm like, man, I feel like these are like the secrets to life. These are the secrets to fulfillment, all of the work that I did. And for me, it was just this deep knowing that this is why you're here. And the fact that you were an attorney was setting you up. It was not a waste of time, it was setting you up, right? Because now I have the perfect market that I want to help, right? Because burnout is just so pervasive. It's pervasive everywhere, but especially with female litigation attorneys. So I truly looked at that as this adversity is a huge gift and I have to share it with as many people as I can. But in terms of getting to the point where I was courageous enough to do that, That was hard. I don't want to make it sound like that was an
No.
easy thing to do because it's not. I have 2 coaches of my own that helped me through this with mindset work and really assessing limiting beliefs. I was the type that'd be like, I never want to own a business. That's too stressful. I could never do that. I kind of had that mindset. Or I'm not organized enough. These were kind of
Yeah.
the limiting beliefs that kept
Yeah.
coming through. And then I was just like, F that. F
That's
that.
right,
And
girl.
I think about everything that I had gone through and the success that I had achieved.
Mhm.
And I'm like, girl, there is nothing you can't do.
That's
So I
right.
created new beliefs, started building evidence, and started really leaning into like manifestation exercises and
Mhm.
visualizing what I wanted my life to be like. And when you do that, you just start to take aligned action without even thinking about it.
You
So it just
do.
snowballs.
Yes. Yes. And it sounds like, I remember when I first started on my personal development journey, I thought that was all woo woo. Like, and that's literally what I thought. I had a really good
Yeah.
friend, and she was like that. She always, it didn't matter what the weather was like outside, she would go, and she lives in upstate New York, and she would go
Okay.
outside in the middle of the winter and have her coffee. That was her time. She'd bundle up, and she was here in January to visit me, and she was, no, I'm going to go have my coffee. But it was this ritual that she created for herself. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, if you're not up and you're not, that was my mindset still because I felt like I had to still work and do. But you really step back from the doing, which you did. Like you said, you're a type A, checking all the boxes and doing all the things to being.
Yes. Yes. That
And
is the
that's
key.
that back. Yes. And that's what I talk about in my coaching and in my community. It's all about who you choose to be because we are women and we have an infinite amount of possibility. It's all in your choices and how you choose to look at things. Period.
Absolutely. And we're energetic beings, right? So if you really go deep into like quantum physics and the
Yes.
intersection of that between spirituality and some of the research that's out there, this
Yes.
isn't woo woo, it's
No.
physics.
That's
And
right.
we are all energy and you attract what you put out. And that's
That's right.
just the way it works.
It is. And you know, in the beginning of this year, I made a choice and I was like, I'm jumping in all in to my podcast because I want to help women. That's what my key was from the beginning because I knew what I had gone through and I knew that I could help women. I knew it. And it wasn't until I believed it and I was doing it to not the actions from in here. I
Yeah.
listened to that voice. I heard it. I got quiet. I learned to meditate. I learned to bring in healthy, you know, getting up in the morning by myself and having a coffee in the quiet or maybe listening to some meditation. That has changed me because I chose it, not because it's somebody else said so, because I chose to do it and it feels right in my body. And
Hmm.
when you make that choice, everything can fall into place because you're energetically aligned. And as soon as I put one
Absolutely.
post out, I met all of you beautiful women, and we have created a platform to share our stories and to know that you were grinding, you were hustling and grinding for years and you're so young and you're so talented and you get to bring that into other people's lives and the awareness that just these little shifts can help you change your life and become healthier.
And this stuff doesn't require a 3-hour commitment every day. I think that's the other
No.
thing. That's what I hate about this personal development. It's like, get up at 4 a.m. and get to the gym for 2 hours. No, it's small, intentional changes. I mean, meditating for 10 minutes can change the trajectory of your day. And don't
Mm,
underestimate, too, the fact that our brains have the capability we have imaginations, which is what separates us from all the other beings in nature. We can imagine. And our brains don't know the difference. So when you're spending a good chunk of your day visualizing your dream life or your future, you're changing your internal state. And that is how you manifest, right? Because your brain doesn't know the difference. And how
yeah,
cool is it that I still wake up with overwhelm and I start to get anxious, but then I go into that visualization and it like resets me, it realigns me. But yeah, when you're aligned, I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. Things just start
Mm-mm.
happening. I saw it
Yeah.
with my health. That was the biggest proof for me,
Yeah.
right? Once I aligned, my health improved. And I had physicians telling me, no, you're going to be sick forever. This is never going to go away because that's what they see in a lot of their patients because they can't get out of that fight or flight mindset. So it was very eye opening, that experience. But yeah, we can change our state like that. How cool is that? Use your brain as a tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Ugh.
your story isn't unlike many others. It isn't. But your power and your vulnerability and your capability to share your story will change people's lives because they will hear it and they will see themselves in you and they will say, oh my goodness, I can do this. I can. And that's the whole point, right? We get to share this with the world so that people can see it within themselves and they don't
Yeah.
have to go down that road of being a victim, being sick, not taking care of themselves mentally. Because once your mental state changes, everything changes.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. The
And you
mind
show
body connection is so
that's
real.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so what do you are you a very present moment person or do you have goals and aspirations for your future or do you just believe that everything's going to align and be exactly where it's going to be?
I think it's a little bit of a combination. So it's kind of this tug of war between being present, and I do that by like getting out in nature and really connecting and that kind of a thing. And I'm really, really conscious of not resisting things in my life or in my current reality that I don't like. This might be an unpopular opinion, but if there's things going on in the world that I really don't like, I try not to give it too much energy
Yeah.
because I believe that the more energy we give something, the bigger it becomes. So it can be a tough balance between educating yourself and doing what's right, but also not letting things consume you. So I do live in the present moment, but I'd say I spend most of my time living in the future, dreaming about what I want my life to look like. You know, I think humans by nature, we like progression. We like to see
Mhm.
growth. We need that. You know,
Yes,
it's our soul's evolution.
that's
So
right.
I'm striking that balance between visualizing what I want, surrendering and being present, but I spend a lot of time in the future and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make is they're spending so much time in the past and that's recreating the reality. They're going to
Yep,
live the same day over and over and over again. But I am big on putting it out there, putting a desire out there and then surrendering it to the universe.
I love that. I love how you explain it too. It's simple. It really is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, like you said, it doesn't have to be many hours in a day. It gets to be simple.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you find like your circle of people that you have surrounded yourself with for the years that you've been doing what you're doing, and I mean, your husband too, do you find shifts in those people around you? Have you, does what you do kind of, because I always find that as when I started to grow and shift my state and really work on, pardon me, my mindset and my narrative by saying I get to instead of I have to, and by being present and I am that person, not, "Oh, I'm gonna try. I think I can." No, I am. I'm doing this. Do you find that the people around you started to shift as well?
Yes, definitely. And it's been interesting because I've had to learn the distinction between influence and persuasion. I think we talked about this a little bit, but that was hard for me because I'm the type that I'm a fixer by nature
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've argued for a living, right? My whole life. So I just am like, you gotta do this, and that's how I started out, right? Once I like figured this stuff out, I'm like, well, you just gotta, and I quickly realized that that does not work.
No, it
So I've
doesn't.
been really working on just showing up as my best version of myself and knowing it's an
Mhm.
energy
Yeah.
and that's going to get absorbed at some point. So I've really kind of found the balance with that. And yeah, I mean, my mom, she manifested the love of her life after having a horrible dating experience for the last like 5 to 10 years
Really?
really quickly just by doing some of the things that I was talking about. I'm like, this is how I manifested this or that. And she just started doing it on her own. And she called me up one day and she's like, I met my person. And I didn't think that was ever going to be possible.
Oh
She's in
my
her
God.
late 60s and she was just beside herself. She's like, I'm so grateful because this never would have happened. She had convinced herself that she was too old to find
Mhm.
that person, you know, how a lot of women
Yep.
feel. Um, so that was really, really, really cool to see.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Like, that is amazing. And I
And I didn't
do
have to do
notice,
anything. I didn't even
right?
coach her.
Yeah, right. You just got to be who you were being. And that's what's
Yeah.
special about this too. I was the same as you in the beginning. I was like trying to influence the people in my life. Like, you've really got to do this. And then I quickly realized that that's not my journey. My journey is to whoever wants this will come into my awareness. And whoever needs this will come into my awareness because I'm not pushing on anyone anymore. They will see. And if they don't, that's their journey. That's about their journey, not
Yeah.
mine. And I will help the people
Absolutely.
that need help. And those that don't choose to have it, that's okay. And there's no hard feelings. It is your journey and you get to do it your way. And if I can help one woman, and that's why I do this, is if one woman that's listening to this says, "Oh my God, Sammy, that is me. I've lived that life." And they see something in themselves for that, we've done our job.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point, and I think that's important too when you're trying to run a small business because there can be a little bit like when you're trying to get clients and stuff. It's like if they're not aligned, you don't want to work with them, right? So
What
I think
more?
it needs to be a vibrational match. People are all on their own journey, and if they're not ready for it, they're not ready for it.
That's
But
right.
you are going to literally draw out those people that are on that frequency, that are ready to make the change. So I think trusting that has been a really helpful shift too. They'll find me when they're ready, you
That's right.
know?
Yep. Yep. And it is hard, especially with your inner circle when it is the people that you love the most. And you see what it has done for yourself and your health and your being and your everything. But again, it's not a push. It's not a push and a pull. It's just a being, and you just get to align it and feel it. And that's how this has been for me when I've been on calls with people. We get on a alignment call, and I have not had one that didn't align because of the people that were in there that I actually, had. It was overwhelming the amount of people, but the ones that I did answer and got back to, and I really tried hard to get back to everyone. But there's, if we don't align, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with you. Everybody's on their own journey. That's
Mhm.
that's been a hard lesson though, because it is
It is
when
hard.
you see people that you love to suffering and you know that you can help them, but they have to be in that
Yeah,
place. You really can't force it, but that can be really challenging.
it is
It's hard.
challenging. It is. It can be for
Yeah.
sure. But you know what makes me proud is I watch my two daughters and my sons, but my daughters especially, they have small children and I've seen their growth just since my growth. And I've watched them become such aligned humans for their own
Mhm.
peace. And they call and they want to just, chat about simple things, or if there is a problem, they want to hear my take on it. And I never force, this is what you have to do. I just give them my, advice or my perspective, and I just allow them to choose what they want. And it's not my journey. And I keep saying that to people, like, it's not my journey. My kids' journey is theirs, and I love them and I will love them through everything, but it's their journey to make their choices. Because I
Yeah.
made a lot of mistakes getting here, right? But those mistakes don't define me. They don't
Not
define
just
me.
that, sometimes you need to screw up,
That's
right?
right.
That's the
Yes.
thing too that I always try to remind myself. I'm like, I had to go through something really, really severe and significant to have this transformation.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that level of adversity. I don't believe
Yeah.
that it's a mistake. I believe that we're here. I believe in soul contracts and that there are certain
Mhm.
hurdles that are
Yeah.
in place for a specific reason. These are lessons
Yeah.
that we need to learn.
Yeah.
So that's the
Absolutely.
other nuance with trying to help people. It's like sometimes you got to really go through the shitty stuff.
Yeah, you
And
do.
that's the only way you're gonna build that resilience and that
And I
that
and
muscle.
I think too, the shitstorm of life, you can choose. It's a choice. Do you stay in it or do you choose to make that shift and go somewhere else because we
Yep.
have the power. We do.
Absolutely.
It's there. And it's about that. Nope, that's, you can stand in, I am who I am and this is what I'm going to do. Well, okay. How about you just try and let something else in? You don't have to agree, but just let it in. And
Yep.
I love the learning and it goes back to what you said earlier too about, you know, unfortunately you went through that sickness to get on the other side of it, but you had to go through it.
Yep.
And you believe that life isn't happening to you. If you are the source and creator of your life, you're creating your reality and you get to do that.
Yep. And finding gratitude in those moments. I thank Source almost every day that I went through that. And
Yeah.
I think once you can express appreciation, it's like, oh, they learned their lesson. Let's give them
Yeah.
some blessings now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
once you can express gratitude for something like that, that just demonstrates like a whole different level of awareness and maturity and evolution. So it's really important. It's all about perspective. We're not
It
defined by
is.
anything that happens to us. It's what we do about it, how we
That's
respond.
right.
That's what
That's right.
defines us. And I
That's
don't
right.
believe in failure. I hate that word.
Yes, me too. Me too. Me too. Because we can take a step to the side off that path a little bit, but we will be redirected into where we're meant to be. We always will be.
Yeah,
Have the
Jamie
faith and the
Kern
courage.
Lima is one of my favorite people that talk about this. She talks about this distinction between self-worth and self-confidence, which was a very important distinction for me to make, and reframes failure. Rejection is protection.
Hmm.
Rejection is protection. And when you can start to reframe it that way, and also, I mean, you know how many people are so successful and they've received 1,000 no's? Nobody talks about that, you know?
That's right.
But you have
That's
to
right.
reframe it as this was not aligned and I'm so much better off. We can
Yeah.
want something so bad and then we don't get it and then we internalize it. But most of the time, it wasn't in our best interest.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I can't wait to watch your journey and I'm so blessed to be a part of it and to have
No,
spent this time with you. And I'm sure we will be continuing to connect. I know that this is a big deal and we're going to do this together as women, one woman at a time, and we're going to make a change. That's what's happening. We are doing that. So thank you so much. I appreciate your
thank
time and I
you.
appreciate you and I appreciate your vulnerability as well as your honesty in being who you are and true to yourself. That's a big, big, big thing for people that
Oh,
don't
I
understand.
appreciate
And
you, Vicky.
you're amazing.
I appreciate you so much. And that's all we have. We get one life.
That's right.
So what do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
But you are doing amazing work. I love everything that you're doing. I can't wait to watch you continue to grow. And I'm sure we're
Thank
gonna
you.
stay very connected. So I'm looking forward
Absolutely.
to
And
it.
we will have you back on so that we can talk about what you've accomplished in in your future manifestations because I love it. I see it all
I
unfolding.
hope
It's a
to.
beautiful thing. Thanks,
Thank you
Sammy,
so
so
much,
much.
Vicky.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you have the most beautiful day, and I'll see you again the next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and your power is limitless. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, share it with the women in your life, and leave a review to help more women discover their unstoppable selves. I'm Vicki McDougall, and I'll see you in the next episode because your journey to unstoppable starts now.